worthy of all praise. He's worthy of all esteem. We do praise him for this time of celebration, commemoration, a time to celebrate and a time to commemorate our time of rest. Even as we're in the time of Sukkot, a time of the building of the tabernacles, the temporary tents. We are in the city. Yes, we're in the city due to our vehicles, to continue to observe and continue to Baruch the Abba for all that he's done and all that he's doing in our lives. Once again, we're also in the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, a time where Yasharal built tents, temporary sukkahs to stay in for the duration of 7 days. And then the 8th day was on this Yom. We're going to continue to move forward, and we're going to do the Baruch of the Torah, and then we're going to have the reading of the 10 Commandments. And it is so.
And it is so.
Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the people.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now we have the reading of the 10 Commandments done by Mattathias, and it is so.
And it is so.
Aleph. I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Nay, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the mind beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the Abbas upon the children, unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that have me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Excuse me. Therefore, Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your image, Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. Why? You shall not murder. Saying, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Jude, neither shall you desire your neighbor's Isha, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bait, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. Chapter 6 of the Beardom. You know how you always kind of glance and you're looking at one verse and then look over to the next verse and you see something in there and it's just amazing. I want to read this as we prepare to read chapter 6. Listen at verse 20. Let's say at 27, 28, and 29. This is important. You go near and hear all that Yahuwah our power shall say, and speak unto all that Yahuwah our power shall speak unto you, and we will hear it and do it. Now this is the children of Yasharal. Verse 28, and Yahuwah heard the voice of your words when you spoke unto me and said unto me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which I have spoken unto you. They have well said all that they have spoken. Oh, that there were such a heart in them that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always. Somebody say always.
Always.
That it might be well with them and with their children forever. Forever means when? Forever. Forever. That is why we have to maintain, you have to fight to keep a hob and to keep the commandments always. It's a fight, not because we don't want to do it, but because the enemy is always there challenging us, trying to make us forfeit it, trying to make us abort it, trying to make us throw it away. So it is important that you, along with all the rest of us, the children of Yahshua, understand it's a fight, fight, fight. Not because we don't want to live for him and live in truth, but because the enemy is always there. And then you got to remember, you got to deal with your own flesh.
Mhm.
So you have to understand, guarding and fighting are two of the things that we should never allow to escape our vocabulary or escape us as people when it comes down to living this life. If you think when you wake up every morning that every morning is going to be filled with roses, it could be shining outside, but understand when you wake up, you're going to have a fight on your hands, a fight to keep the belief and a fight on a straight and narrow path. Because there are so many other paths that have been introduced to us, and so many other things that the enemy is trying to introduce to us as other pathways and other ways to walk in it. But we have to maintain our consistency and continue to walk upright in the truth. And it is so.
And it is so.
Chapter 6, the Beardom, verses 1 through 18, and it reads, "These are commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the yamim of your life, and that your yamim may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shema, Yasharal. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our supreme one. Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall ahab Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall to what?
Bind to the mind.
To bind to the mind. We better bind it to the mind. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah. Somebody say, don't forget Yahuwah.
Don't forget Yahuwah.
Say it again, don't forget Yahuwah.
Don't forget Yahuwah.
It's important we understand that. If it couldn't be done, he would not have warned us not to do it. So it is possible for us to forget him when we've gotten satisfied and full. Which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the other power, the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Abba Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Abba Yahuwah swore unto your Abbas. And so, let us have some. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For who you are, Lord, you are our great tower. We sing the highest praise. For who you are, Lord, who you are our great tower. We sing the highest praise. For who you are, Lord, you are our great tower. We sing the highest praise. Lord, who you are our great power. We sing the highest praise. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, hallelujah, to exchange. We just appreciate the Abba for all that he's doing, all that he's done. Let us turn our attention to the son of Nun, Yahush, chapter 1. And let's begin with verse 6, and we're going to read 7, and then we're going to recite verse 8. When you have a saying it is so, it is so. Verse 6 says, be strong and of a great courage, for to this people shall you divide for an inheritance the land, which I swore to your Abba to give them. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit our time of confession, I didn't take anything away, but just made it personal. Repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah,
I will not let this scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth,
but I shall meditate therein,
but I shall meditate therein,
Yom and Layla,
Yom and Layla,
that I may observe to do
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous,
But then I shall make my way prosperous,
and then I shall act wisely.
and then I shall act wisely,
Now look at your neighbor and tell me, you shall act wisely.
and you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor and tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely,
And you shall act wisely.
Now take your hand and put it over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba
I
Yahuwah,
shall act wisely.
I shall act
Come
wisely.
on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
It is so. I'm committed to remembering his instructions for my life. And we should always be willing to turn back if we get so far up the road and the road starts looking a little strange and the road starts looking unfamiliar. We should always be willing to turn back and go back to that road. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about walking in truth. You know, there are times in this walk that you can begin to go so far up ahead of the road. Now, listen what I'm saying is that if that road has not been proven and has not been tested, and you get up there and it starts looking unfamiliar, according to the instructions that he's given to us, there's no shame in turning back, going to that place of familiarity. When I'm talking about the writings, and understand what I'm saying, I'm not talking about this stuff that we've learned and it was wrong. I'm not talking about following behind the moon. I'm not talking about that type of stuff. I'm talking about when you get so far up ahead of the road and that place has not been proven. Because trust me, I've come to understand people are struggling with understanding we don't follow the lesser light. We follow the first light and the only light, which comes from the sun. I've come to understand that people are struggling with keeping the feast because people read in the feast where the Yahweh was getting on them and correcting them in certain passages, and then they tend to make that passage the verse or the scripture that they use to try to validate or even try to substantiate their reason for not keeping the feast. So please let me put that out there, because sometimes we put stuff out there and people will tend to run and go back because it's familiar. Well, this is how we used to do it. Well, because you kept it that way doesn't make it right. Now, when you come in truth and you come into where you're being shown and taught, don't fight that. What I'm saying is when you get so far up the road and now nothing is familiar, it's time to turn around and retrace your steps to that what is familiar, but that what is right. I'm familiar with Christianity, but I ain't going back to no Christianity. I'm going back to what is right in the writings, because I know that I can establish my footing or reestablish my footing there. Many times people get stuff and they begin to read it, ingest it, digest it, and now they're all over the place because they're trying to figure out, is this real? This doesn't make any sense. Well, go back to the place you left off first. In truth. In truth. I know when people are struggling with accepting truth. I know it. I know when people are struggling because they can't break away from that system or that way that they were taught. Let me tell you something. When you want to walk in truth, you will find a way, because you will hear his voice. And hearing his voice, you will know, okay, this is right. Why? Because there's scripture to back it up, and not because of somebody interpreted it the wrong way. This is one thing that we have to, as a people, be careful of. If you are not a Mora or a Moray, stop trying to interpret the writings. Because then you will find yourself being outside. And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with that, and that's fine with me. I am content and I'm set. But we're going to see that when you do that and you are not in a place to do so, that causes problems. Because if your interpretation is based upon your knowledge, and your knowledge is not of that of a Mora or a Moray, then you're going to mislead people. So the thing of it is stay in your lane. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
This is important. Why is it important? Because we got too many people going out there. And this is why I said, when you get so far up the road and now you're up there and everything is looking foreign. And when I mean foreign, not because somebody told you, okay, when you get up there, this is wrong. No, because you can't find anywhere in the writings to intelligently connect it. And then connect it not based off of somebody else's personal interpretation, but true interpretation of what these writings mean. Once again, it's so important that we understand that. Go back to your place, or that place of the right footing. And what I mean by that, and somebody said, but everything that I learned was based on when you picked up for the truth, then you go back to there. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important to do that. This is why so many times our people end up getting misconstrued and being led astray, because we get to a point where now pride gets in the way. And pride goes before what? Goes before a fall. Because now we feel like, okay, I got this thing under wraps. I may not understand that, but maybe it's new to me because this and that and the other. Let me tell you something. Everything in this writing has been proven. If it hasn't been proven by us, it's been proven by somebody else.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure it's proven the right way so that you can remain in the walk and walk according to his instructions for your life. Because there's a way that seems right unto man, but the end thereof is death. And another rendering is destruction, which brings you to a place of death. So I'm telling you, be careful. Be careful. If you get to a place and it's unfamiliar, stop. Are y'all listening to me?
Yes.
STOP with a exclamation mark. Don't proceed, because if you proceed, the enemy's going to be on the other side of that door waiting for you. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Why? Because he knows what you're looking for. It's amazing how games imitate life. They do. Games imitate life. You want to see some crazy stuff? If you're a gamer, just watch how people play. And you tell them, don't go so far up. Hold back. This, we haven't seen this place. All we see. This is one thing I'm gonna say this, then we're gonna go for it. I am a major fan of Apex. I'm just a fan of Apex. And one of the things that we always say when we're teaming up is, don't go so far ahead of the team that now you get out there, then you get down and you die. Now you put everybody else in danger, because now we got to make a choice: either come and save you and die, forfeit the winning, or we say, well, no, we're just gonna let you stay out there. Common sense says if you're looking in a place and there are kill boxes, for those of you that don't know what that means when that person dies, their whole life is put in a box, looks like a casket for real, with their picture on it, with their picture on it. If we see those over there and you see things are open, sometimes it's best to bypass that, because you already know they tried to do this and it didn't work. So let's go around that, and let's not try to do the same thing they did, because that could be our same fate. Somebody said, but you'll never know if you go through there. But yeah, you go through there and you see this there. It's already a known fact that there are dead people over there, and there are boxes open that show they tried to get something that was not there. So it is important that we understand, people, don't try to do something if you know somebody else, listen to me carefully, and I'm using it in this manner, that if they've already died behind it. Are you following me?
Yes.
What was that man named who was the so-called great magician? Harry Houdini. Ended up dying. Didn't he drown to death? He drowned to death because he was trying to do something that he thought he could do. Let me tell y'all something. Don't get so to where you feel like you got to prove a point to somebody and end up losing your life. That's not what we do. And wisdom dictates, because the Abba has given us instructions and he's shown us how to follow. Once again, if you get that far up there and it's unfamiliar because you've put yourself up there, if you don't listen, you're going to find yourself in trouble. You're going to find yourself over to the side. Why? Because you're going to make shipwreck of the belief, because you're going to be over on the sidelines. Why? Because you will be there and can't find anything to hold on to. And if pride gets you, because you're not under the covering of the eye, but then guess what's going to happen? You're going to remain there because you don't want nobody to tell you, I told you not to go that far. I told you leave that alone. I told you to wait till it's been proven or to pray about it. Because pride will be right there saying, all I want to do is for them to open up. And once they open up, boom, I'm jumping on them. So it's better to be, to pray and to wait and stay in that place before you start trying to jump out there and go somewhere and then make shipwreck of your belief. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That's what's happening to many of our people. That's why they're struggling to maintain, because they've gone farther than what was given to them to go. You don't go past unless the Abba tells you. And then many say, well, he told me to go there. If you got there and now you're confused, he didn't tell you to go there. Because he's not the author of confusion. Y'all hearing me?
Yes.
He never has been, and he never will be the author of confusion. So like I say, many people don't like it, but it's okay. I have a mandate on my life, and I'm going to tell just what he says for me to tell. And that's what I'm going to do, because it's about saving lives, not destroying lives.
God.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Let's have another song. Not to repeat too long. We got one more thing. Okay.
Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the praises of our King rise among us. Let it rise. Let the power of Yahuwah rise. Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the praises of our King rise among us. Let it rise. Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the praises of our Let the power of Yahuwah rise. Let the power of Yahuwah rise among us. Let the praises of our King rise among us. Let it rise. Oh, let it rise. 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 Let it
We appreciate him. I appreciate him for all that he's doing, for waking us up, for allowing us to see yet another beautiful Yom going into the Layla, a time of commemoration, a time of celebration, a time to celebrate tabernacles and to truly understand the meaning of tabernacle and all those great things, and just being able to bring us as a people into a place of agreement. It's important that we understand agreeing with the writings. Agreement is very important. Without agreement, nothing can be done, because after agreement, then there comes covenant. Unless you agree to something and then bring forth the covenant, one or two things with covenant is either blood, money. You can even cut covenant, eating food. That's why it's important that you be careful who you eat your meals with or what have you, unless you're ready to cut covenant with those individuals or with that individual. It's very important to understand these things. Why is it important to understand these things? Because if you're cutting covenant, that means you have agreed to whatever terms they put on the table. You've made agreement with that through your actions. I'm not hearing many comments. You've made an agreement. That's why it is important that we are extra careful in our agreements and things we say we're going to do or we're not going to do. Why? Because whatever agreement you set, you got to be willing to follow through with that agreement.
Sure.
We are a covenant people, and our covenant is with God, but through his son in the Ruach HaKodesh. And it's important that we establish that. If we don't establish that and we're not clear about that and we are not set with that, guess what happens? Then now you are vacillating, or you are basically not secure in that. And if you're not secure in that, covenant will not really be cut.
Right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important we understand this. We're in a time that we have to make sure that our covenant is valid and that we have made this agreement, and there is no reneging, there is no aborting of it, and there is no going back on it. Because you got to remember, if you go back, he's not going back. He's going to remain right where he is, where the covenant began. He never left the covenant. Our people did. And we ended up inheriting this. Now, our whole goal is to find the information, find the way, and not so much work our way out of it, but find that what is pleasing to him so that we can live the life that's pleasing and reverse this thing. So instead of us walking under a curse that our ancestors were in, we can walk under being Baruch and being secure until his time of gathering us up.
Sure.
That is important, but you can't do that if you're closed off and you don't want nobody to tell you nothing.
Right.
Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
And it's where our people are. You got to be humble. Humble. If you're not humble, you can't learn.
Right.
We learn from everybody else. You go to the grocery store and the cashier tell you, well, that's the wrong price, this, that, and the other. And many of us, if they tell us that, even though we see the price, we'll humble ourselves and say, okay, well, great. Somebody come and tell you, say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and show you in the writings, you're ready to fight them tooth and nail because of what you believe is right. It's not about what you think is right, or it's not even about what I think is right. It's about what's stated in these writings that tell us it's right. That's important. Very important for us as a people. This is why, once again, the Abba is calling us into a time of recovery, restoration, revival. Restore, recover, revive. Those things cannot happen unless we put ourselves in a position for them to take place. You don't know you're wrong until somebody tells you you're wrong. But watch this. The key to this is, do you believe it?
Right.
See, many times we don't believe it because we don't feel like why am I wrong? You know, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. The majority is not always right.
Right.
Look at Yahshua. The majority is not always right. And that's something with our ancestors that we have seen prove positive. So it's important that we understand this life and that what he's given unto us and walk in it. It's not a hard way. And if someone's correcting you, it's not harsh. Look at how Yahushua corrected our people. If some of us would have been back in his time, we would have never walked with him.
Right.
Because we'd have been like, oh, he's too abrasive. Oh, he's too mean. No, he was just telling the truth. And in telling the truth, there is no sugarcoating it.
Okay.
You have to be willing to accept what he says. It's either all or not at all. And so it's important that we understand that, especially in the time we live in. You won't, and I'll put it in this manner, then we're going to read the writings, Yehukanan, Aleph, chapter 5. We got so many types of sugars on the shelf. You go to the Whole Food store, you got about 50. Then you go into the regular store, you have 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably more. Then you go online, you have 5, 6, 7. And if you don't have the dry sweetener, then you have the liquid sweeteners. So you have a variety of choices. But the question is, do we have that privilege to have anyone we want? No, we don't. All those type of sugars. You want to make sure you get the right one. Because in getting the right one, not only will it help you and benefit you, but you'll make sure you're not putting poisons in your body. And watch this. There are some things that are not even looked upon as being sugars. You have also a date syrup, which is also a sweetener. Dates are great for the body. But because of our palates and because of how our taste buds have been conditioned, if it ain't sweeter than sweet, we don't want it. And you have to understand, he told Ezekiel, he said, as it goes in, it's going to taste great to the body. He says, go in, it's going to be bitter. But then when you pass it, it's going to be great. Consuming the writings or the instructions can sometimes be a mouthful because of what is required of us. I know people don't like it. Why? Because people think that everything is supposed to go their way. It's supposed to be get up, put my clothes on, put my shoes on. That's it. Nobody tell me anything else other than that. But let me tell you something. This is a walk of instructions. It is a walk of instructions, and you got to be willing to accept instructions that are given to you and placed upon your life. You got the world offering you all types of sweeteners, but when you look on the back and really test to see if those sweeteners are great for you, and you start looking something, wait a minute, this got this. Okay, this is not really a natural sweetener. It's got this in it, natural this and natural that. If you're not careful with in understanding certain wordings, you won't know what you're putting in your body.
Right.
Because everything, some things are masked over to make you believe it's natural, when all it is another name for sodium, salt. So we have to understand that what may be offered to the world, and you have a variety or a large selection, is not for us. There's only one thing we can either take. What is that, Sukkot? That sugar, what's that called? Sukkot? Zoko, pure sugar. Pure. It's not coated with cane syrup to make it look like it's sugar. White sugar has been when you get the brown sugar, the dark brown, those sugars are coated with cane syrup. So you're not getting anything that's pure. You're getting something that is man-made. You get the other stuff. That stuff is not right. I go with honey because honey comes from bees. Now, even with honey, you have to be careful of how they process it. You want to make sure that you're getting honey that's not been processed in the wrong manner. When you know that, then you're able to really do a process of elimination to where, hey, not going to mess with that because that's not great. So actually, just because it's up there and offered doesn't mean that we have an option to select it.
Right.
We only have one selection in this world, and that is the truth, and that is Torah in its fullness. We don't have the option as the world has. And we should never put ourselves in that position to believe we have all these options, because we do not. Once again, do you want to be fit and healthy, or do you want to be raggedy and content? May sound like a crazy question, but it's a valid question.
That's right.
Because remember, this way is what? Straight and narrow.
Yes.
Meaning that ain't nothing can get in there but you and his instructions. You bring anything else, you ain't gonna fit in there. And this is the mindset that we have to have. You can't be all over the place. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand this, because when we fail to acknowledge this and hold on to it, this is when the enemy sees us as easy picking. He said, oh, they'll take anything. Why? Because these are the sweeteners of the world. Anything to sweeten that palate, you can have it. But the consequences behind it are detrimental. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
They're detrimental. So you have to understand, if someone's telling you that you know is credible, ain't caught up in no junk, ain't in that stuff, and you know their life is they are living what they say, I'm not going to tell you something, just anything. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand these things. Why? Because we're in a time of recovery. And you can't recover somebody if you haven't been fully recovered. Restoration can't take place if you have not been restored. Revival only comes through the Abba.
That's right.
It only comes through him. So it is important that we understand the process that we're in now. It's tight. We're going through some tight spots, and we're going through some squeezing places. But it's important that we be found proven so that the Abba can get the esteem out of our lives.
No.
It's not popular. No, it's not popular. Why is it not popular? Because when you are not given every option out of the book, then of course it's not going to be popular. And we should never do anything for popularity. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Never popularity. We should always do it because we know it's the right thing to do, and because the Abba has told us to do this. Very important for us to understand that. Very. We're going to look at Yehukanah Aleph chapter 5, and we're going to read this. Why? Because this is something the Abba has placed upon my heart to read every time before we go in. As you see, we follow a regimen as to what we do. These are the nuggets that we get to whet our palates as we are preparing for class. To many, it seems like an overkill, but never an overkill. It is something to encourage our belief so that we're able to stand, and having done all to stand therefore with our loins girt about with his truth. These are the nuggets that help us to make it throughout the yam and to make it throughout those hard and trying times as we continue to move forward. Now, chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. Everyone has it? Yes. All right. Now, everyone who believes that Yahushua is the Mashiach has been born of Yahuwah. And everyone who ahabs and one bringing forth also ahabs and one having been born of him. For many of you who don't understand that, in other words, the name of the son of the Abba is Yahush. The name of the son of the Abba is Yahuwah. You have to understand, just like we have been educated as a people to who we are not Black people, though many of us are heavy melanated. We are not Black people because Black has no, it has no lineage. It only has maybe history, but it does not have a culture or lineage. And it's a status, not a way of life. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Our people were stripped of their identity. Our people are still being stripped of our identity. We're still being stripped of who we are. So now you categorize us just like you would categorize animal. Oh, that's a black cat. Oh, that's a white cat. Oh, that's a black dog. But let me show you how people will do even in society. They will not call dogs and cats black. They'll call them Persian cats. They'll say that's a pit bull. They'll say that's a German shepherd. They'll say that's a Rottweiler. They'll say those type of things. But they will never, y'all, I know how I say it now. But they will never just categorize them or put them in a status per se. They'll call them by what they are, their breed, their stock. We were not even given that. We were called according to what they wanted to categorize us. Black people. There is no place on any map you will ever find where it says Blackatopia or black here or black there. We were stripped of this, our identity. And in doing so, now watch this, they also stripped us of our cultural way of believing. Many people, when you say Yahuwah and Yahush, they get scared. They think about, oh, the devil, the devil. No, you better go back and check your history. Because while you're running around here saying Jesus, Jesus, and God, God, check out its origin. I told one sister, I'm still born again. I still am born again. And I still believe in living Kadesh, which means holy. But not as Christianity has promoted it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Whom Yahush has set free is what?
Free indeed.
Free indeed. We're free. We're not in bondage. Many say Christianity don't put you in bondage. I beg to differ. Yes, it does.
Yes.
Do the research. And there was a problem because nobody wanted to believe in Yahush just like now. They will fight you tooth and nail. His name ain't Yahush. His name is Jesus. There's no J's in Hebrew. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's only 500 years old. And if they could put on us and push and force on us that Christopher Columbus discovered something that was already here and we believe it, then they'll push on you this same madness.
That's right.
You're following me?
Yes.
Very important to understand. But this is setting the standard of our belief in the Abba. What is wrong with a name change? You see how they put fear in our people to believe in the name of the Abba. He has a name above every other name. If he has a name above every other name, then how come we find so many Jesus all over the place? Are y'all following me?
Yes.
He has a name above every name. By this we know that we ahab the children of Yahuwah when we ahab Yahuwah and guard his commands. That's in the writings in the King James Version or whatever. His commands. What are his commands? Very important to understand. For this is the ahab for Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are what? Not difficult. What makes them difficult is not understanding them or trying to look at them through rose-colored, painted Christian glasses. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because everyone having been begotten of Yahuwah overcomes the world. And this is the overcoming that has overcome the world. Our what? Belief. Our belief in what? In Yahush being the son of Abba Yahuwah. Who is the one who overcomes the world but he who believes that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah? That's a question there. This is the one. Now he's giving you the reason why he's asked the question, but now he's going to finish with the statement. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is the one that came by water and blood. Yahush Mashiach. Not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach who bears witness. Many renderings will say spirit, but it is the Ruach who bears witness, because the Ruach is the truth. Because there are three who bear witness, the Ruach and the water and the blood, and the three are in what?
Agreement.
They're in agreement, and their agreement is substantiated in us. If we receive the witness of men, the witness of Yahuwah is what?
Greater.
It's what?
Greater.
It is greater. So that means the witness of Yahuwah, meaning you need to research what Yahuwah had to say about his son. Very important. Because this is the witness of Yahuwah, which he has witnessed concerning his son. The one who believes in the son of Yahuwah has the witness in himself. The one who does not believe is a liar, because he has not believed the witness that Yahuwah has given concerning his son. And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us eternal life, and this life is in his son. He who possesses the son possesses life. He who does not possess the son of Yahuwah does not possess life. Now, what does the enemy come to do? Say it again.
Steal, kill, and destroy.
He comes to steal. So if he could steal from you and steal from me the identity of the Abba's son, Yahuwah, then he can do what? He can kill us, steal, kill, and do what?
Destroy.
And destroy. If he kills, watch this, a witness, then he can destroy the path of that witness that has that the witness of that who agrees, or the agreement is in them. And if the enemy can do that, then he can destroy that witness. Then watch this. He can destroy a path and a life of saving of people through truth if he can kill that one person's belief in Yahuwah's son. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when it says he comes to steal, kill, and to destroy, you ought to start thinking, well, if I'm already dead, how can he destroy me? Destroy your works and to destroy the works that you are supposed to be engaging in. If he can get you to a point where you start questioning and not believing, you start thinking, no, none of that could have happened. He's not real. You know, this ain't right. Now he got you right where he wants you. Are y'all following?
Yes.
It's important that you got to understand he's a strategist, and he's been doing this for ages. So he knows that now he can just kill you. He's destroyed the work that you were supposed to have in your life. And don't tell me people can't be destroyed before their time, because they can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people say, well, it was their time. Was it? Was it their time? A stray bullet killed somebody. Well, it was just their time to go. Could it possibly be that they got killed because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time? Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But I don't say it was just their time. You can't tell me it's just their time. They probably was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
All right. He who does not possess the son, he who possesses the son possesses life. He who does not possess the son of Yahuwah does not possess life. I have written this to you who believe in the name of the son of Yahuwah, so that you know that you possess everlasting life. And so that you believe in the name of the son of Yahuwah. And this is the boldness that we have in him, that if we ask whatever according to his desire, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. This is why I said it's important that you open your mouth during times of prayer and during times of praise. Because he's not going to sit there and pick your brain. He's not going to do it. Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Those are action words. And action has to be followed through with your belief. Don't tell me you believe and you can't open your mouth. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It is important we understand this. Why? Because these are the tricks of the enemy to get us to play mum's the word or to be quiet. Are y'all following?
Yes.
Very important we understand. Even warriors, when they're fighting and they're making that blow, you ought to hear them. I've just listened when you watch the what is it? The not samurai, but when you watch those that are in martial arts and they're fighting, with every blow they make that sound.
Yes.
Why? Because they want you to know, hey, when this hits, you're gonna know it hit. And they say, according to that, it's supposed to help push more of a pack or more. You open your mouth and it's heard, it makes more. Are you hearing me? Pushes you more and substantiates your belief.
Wow.
Because you know that he's not deaf and neither is he dead. But he's yet what? Very much alive. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Our declaration of healing. And then we're going to read our affirmation. And then we're going to have our last song. All right, repeat with me. Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
in the name of Yahush,
in the name of Yahush,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach,
we subdue ignorance
we subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation.
and salvation.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people,
our people,
Yasharal.
Yasharal.
We unite,
We unite
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now our affirmation shows you and always affirms us in our belief and what we're striving for. And we're committed to it. And it's not just something we do. And if it is on the Sabbath, then we need to change that. But this is our affirmation for going forward and for maintaining our consistency. It's a creed. It's like a creed. You know what a creed is? A creed is the foundation, what motivates or pushes the people forward into doing what they do. That's why you have a lot of businesses that have the creed on the wall. That's why you have many churches. We're not a church, but they have the creed on the wall. Why? Because that's what they want people to recognize, see, and get it in their ruach so that they will have that same motivation, because that's what the belief is based upon. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We have affirmations. We are a congregation, and this is how we believe, and this is what we continue to fight for and to maintain. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, repeat with me. I purpose to develop my ruach.
I purpose to develop my ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibrahim.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibrahim.
I have the life and nature
I have the life and nature
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
That life is
That life is
the Torah of Yasharal.
the Torah of Yasharal.
I purpose to walk in
I purpose to walk in
the Torah of life.
the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahush,
Yahush,
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's ahab
Yahuwah's ahab
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching.
He is leading me.
He is leading.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach
The Ruach
HaKodesh
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah in me
of Yahuwah in me
is leading me.
is leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah.
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have another song, please.
Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. 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 Ya 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 ya. Let every that has praise Yahuwah. Let every that has
esteem, we praise him, for all that he's done and all that he's yet going to do. As we prepare to recite, confess this verse in Tehillim and go into the second portion of our class, you recite this, that you take an inventory of your heart, your mind, because we're not just asking him for right now. We're asking him to accept that what is in our heart as a people, individually. Are you following me?
Yes.
And so when we do so, we want to examine that, asking him to accept something that is unacceptable. So take that few minutes, just a few minutes to examine your heart. So that when you ask him these things, that you're asking him from a pure heart, and that you know, and if it's not, then repent and ask him to forgive you, and from this day be better, help you to be different. So that when you recite this again, you won't have to be looking and saying, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have thought that. And it is so.
And it is so.
Repeat with me as we bow before our King. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited from Tehillim 19 and 14, and it is so.
And it is so.
You may be seated in his presence. Once again, we do give praise to the Yahweh for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do in the lives of us, his people, as we continue to push forward and in celebrating this, our time of the Feast of Tabernacles, which can be found in Wayikra chapter 23, verses 33 to 43. Let's go there and let us read that for the basis of where we're getting ready to go. On to Yom, we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it from the perspective of Yahush being there and being an active participant at the time of the feast. So many times we have so many people that fight against the Mashiach and say that the renewed covenant is hogwash, and they say all other types of things that I dare not mention, but they truly defame it in so many ways, because they don't believe that the Mashiach is truly the son of Yahuwah. And so therefore they place no relevance or no value on the renewed covenant. And so we want to show forth in the renewed covenant the presence of Yahush during this time. And so we're going to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to show his presence and everything, so that we that are following the Mashiach will continue to follow him and will continue to be strengthened and made even the more, even made stronger in our belief and commitment to him, because commitment is key. Commitment is an action word. So I would say, how is it an action word? Because being committed doesn't mean that I'm just not going to do anything. Being committed means I'm going to show forth some signs and action. Commitment is a great word. I'm committed. If I'm committed to something, then I'm going to be active in my commitment. I'm going to do stuff. Are y'all following me? I can say I'm committed all day long, but never show any signs. That's just a word. But when that word has some action, that woman activists. They are active in that. And so it's important that we be activists and towards the things that help to build us and help to show forth who we are to the nations. Very important for us to understand that. Once again, we're in the Feast of Tabernacles. I know for some have already come out. There's some right on the tail of us, and we are going through this. And so one thing is important is that I believe to keep it. I believe you need to keep it. I will say that I believe in following according to Bereshit 1 and 14, that this is the way we're supposed to follow it according to the sun and not the moon. And that is not just a belief, but there is evidence, and that evidence can be proven and shown. This is why we're supposed to follow it that way. And so it is important that we follow it. And so I want to encourage you, if you're not, then do so. Because it is something that we are supposed to do throughout our generations. I've heard those say, well, because we're in the land of our captivity, land of our enemy, we're not supposed to do it. He said, in all your dwellings and in all your generations. And so this is what we're supposed to do. We're going to do it. You know, and for those of you that feel like you don't want to do it, then that's you. But I'm going to tell you this, do not tell anybody else to not do it, because if you tell other people not to do it, and you are misleading those people, you're going to find yourself in trouble, because their blood is going to be required at your hands. So it's important that we understand these things. But once again, Wayikra chapter 23, 33 through 43, and we're going to read it to, once again, substantiate why we do what we do, and to encourage others to do so. And it is so. All right, once again, that's chapter 23, verses 33 to 43.
Speak unto the children of Yasharal, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be a Sukkot, for 7 days unto Yahuwah. On the first day shall be a Mikra Kodesh. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. On the 8th day shall be a Mikra Kodesh unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. These are the feasts of Yahuwah, which you shall proclaim to be a Mikra Kodesh, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and a drink offering, every day upon his day. Besides the Sabbaths of Yahuwah, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vows, and besides all your freewill offerings, which you give unto Yahuwah. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto you 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And you shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your power 7 days. And you shall keep a feast unto Yahuwah 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations, and you shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days, and all that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Yasharal to dwell in booths, when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahuwah your power. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, foundation to substantiate why we do what we do, and not use excuses to say, well, we're not in the land, so we can't keep it. You have legs, you have feet, you have an understanding, you can keep it. Very important that we understand that. And so with that being said, it's important that we find Yahush keeping it. We look and examine the times that he kept this feast and what was going on during that time. And so that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at Yehukanan, and we're going to look at chapter 7, and we're going to look at verses 11 through 36. And during this time, Yahush teaches in the temple during the Feast of Tabernacles. And so we're going to look at that, Yehukanan chapter 7, verses 11 through 36. And we're going to read a couple of chapters and substantiate, and then we're going to see what was taking place during that time. Because remember, he told us in Matthew 5 and 17, think not that I've come to destroy the law or the prophets. Now we understand understand that law was transliterated into law. The real word is doctrine or his teaching. So it's important that we understand that Yahush is saying, I didn't come to do away with my Abba's teachings or his doctrine for your lives. This is what is so important for us to understand. Why? Because many people use that or misuse it, believing that he came to do away with it. He said, but to fulfill it. And because it is fulfilled does not mean that we are not responsible or obligated in doing our part. Somebody said, what is our part? To do the same thing he did. Because remember, he lives on the inside of us. And so it is important that we learn from his example and that we do the very same thing that he did. And it is so. It is so. All right, now, you have it saying it is so. Yehukin in chapter 7, verses 11 through 36. And it is so. All right, now we're going to break that up and we're going to let everybody read. Say, let's read 5 verses. Beginning at verse 11. Okay, you have it. Okay, we're going to start with you, the first 5 verses. And then
in chapter 7, starting at 11, it reads, the Yehudim, therefore, were seeking him at the festival, and said, where is he? And there was much grumbling about him among the crowd. Some were saying, he is good, but others were saying, no, that he is leading the crowd astray. However, no one spoke openly of him for fear of the Yehudim. And about the middle of the festival, Yahush went up into the set-apart place, and he was teaching. And the Yehudim were marveling, saying, how does this man know letters, not having learned? Yahush answered them and said, my teaching is not mine, but he who sent me.
And it is so. Now, we did 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now let's look at this. The religious leaders marvel, saying, how does this man understand the writing, having never learned in our yeshiva or letters? Now let me show y'all what that means, because many times we don't understand what that is. All right. It was common custom to go to the yeshivas to learn, but Yahush was taught through the Abba and knew the Torah well here, represented as letters. So because they had no history or no recollection of him going through their schools, they marveled at, we never seen him before. How is he to know this? This is how you know this is divine intervention, and that he learned this by way of who? The Abba and the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay? By the way he governed and the way he carried himself. And so it's important that we understand why they were marveling, or they were kind of blown away. Once again, because they had no history of him being a part of this. All right, let's read. And then he says in verse 16, I'm sorry. He said, Yahush answered them, my message is not mine, but his that sent me. So once again, he's bringing them to a place to understand, I'm not speaking my own words such as you do. These are not mine. Yahush answered them and said, my teaching is not mine, but his that sent me, meaning that these are the teachings of who? The Abba. So when you understand, really understand, fully understand the rebuttal that he gave in Matit Yahu 5 and 17, he was not just talking that, but he was in reference giving them an answer to what he was not coming to do. Because why says everybody else was doing that. Doing away with it and accepting the what? The laws of what? Man. So by them putting man's law above Abba Yahuwah's law, Yahuwah set the foundation and said, I've not come to do that. Are y'all following me? Yes. All right, let's start at verse 17 and let's read. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
If anyone chooses to do Yahuwah's will, he will find out whether my teaching comes from Yahuwah or whether I speak on my own. He who speaks on his own does so to gain honor for himself. But he who works for the honor of the one who sent him is a man of truth. There is nothing false about him. Has not Moshe given you the Torah? Yet not one of you keeps it. Why are you trying to kill me? You are demon possessed, the crowd answered. Who is trying to kill you? Yahushua said to them, I did one miracle and you were all astonished. Actually, it did not come from Moshe, but from the patriarchs. You circumcised a child on the Sabbath. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, I'll read you two footnotes from this. One of the footnotes for Yehukin in chapter 7, verses 16 says, this statement for verse 16 and 18 is Yahush's declaration to the sages that he is the prophet, as detailed in Devarim chapter 18. Let's go to 18, 15, and 15 through 19. He's establishing that he's a prophet. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because they didn't teach him this, and so he's establishing this foundation for himself. All right, let's look at Devarim chapter 18. Let me get there. And 15, verses 15 through 19.
And it is so.
All right, read that for me.
Yahuwah your power will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own brothers. You must listen to him. This is what you requested from Yahuwah your power at Horeb on the day of the assembly when you said, let us not continue to hear the voice of Yahuwah our power or to see this great fire any longer, so that we will not die. Then Yahuwah said to me, they have spoken well. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. I will hold accountable whoever does not listen to my words that he speaks in my name. But the prophet who dares to speak a message in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other powers, that prophet must die. You may say to yourself, how can we recognize a message Yahuwah has not spoken?
And it is so.
And it is.
Thank you for the extra. All right, now, very important that we understand what is being substantiated here. Once again, you got to remember, Yahushua is also what? A prophet. And this is where we establish that in Devarim chapter 18, verses 15 through 19. The words, he said, my message is not mine, but his that sent me. Yahuwah sent him, so he put the word in his mouth for him to declare and for him to speak. They couldn't understand that. Why? Because they were not obedient and was not listening. As he read forward, this is what we come to understand and what we see. Now, he says, now, if any man does his will, he shall know whether the message is of Yahuwah or from myself. This is what is important as well. Our relationship with the Abba should allude to allow us to know when the message is truly from the Abba or when it is of a person from their own hearts. This is a problem with a lot of people because a lot of times in interpreting things, people interpret things or believe interpretation based upon, watch this, either the experience with the person, relationship with a person, or lack of relationship with that person. So therefore a person says, well, I can believe or I cannot believe because I really don't know. But when you have an ear that the Ruach HaKodesh is fine-tuned, you know that whether it agrees with you or not, you know, okay, this is right. I may not understand it right off, and it might kind of have me in that situation where I'm afraid to really trust in it because I've never heard this before, or I've heard it, but you know, when I heard, I was told not to believe this. Let me tell y'all something. This is where you really have to begin to have an ear to hear. Because if you hear someone in the distance telling you to run to safety, but you are afraid because you don't have a relationship with that person, but you know the way they're telling you is the right way to go, then you need to follow that way. Problem come in is self-will and stubbornness. And we don't always like to admit that we're stubborn and self-willed. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Like Yasharal was and still is. Hard as a brick. But you have to understand, if he didn't have us, he wouldn't be fine-tuning us. He wouldn't be putting us in a place to listen. We all have to listen. That is important to understand. You have to listen. It depends, your life depends upon, or your livelihood or your security depends on you listening. Because if you don't listen and you make the wrong move, then you could die or forfeit something. So it's important that we understand. But in this passage, he is declaring that he is the prophet according to Devarim chapter 18, verses 15 through 19. Verse 18 says, he that speaks about himself seeks his own glory, but he that seeks the beauty of the Abba, or the one that sent him, that is the true one, and there is no unrighteousness in him. Once again, you know people that are glory hounds. You know people that are self-centered and all they want to do is get their names up in lights. And you know the ones that don't. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Everything we do is supposed to be to win souls.
God.
That's what it's supposed to be about. Not who can put the most posts up or the best man. That it ain't even about that. It's about soul being brought into the kingdom, into truth. Now listen what he said. Is there no unrighteous in him? Did not Moshe give you the Torah? None of you keep the Torah. Now you got to understand what he's saying here. He's telling them none of you keep his instructions. This is why we are in a time of what? Recovery. We're in a time of recovery. We're in a time of recovery, restoration, and revival. Abba Yahuwah is the only one that can revive, but we can recover and we can restore a people. Are y'all following me? According to Yashiyah 61, when the Ruach is upon us, there are things that we are committed to do. And isn't it in 3 and 17 of Luke, or 3 and 4? One of them. Check that for me. But I know it's in Luca, where he turns around and he says the same thing. I think it's 4, chapter 4. Where he says, the Spirit of the Abba is upon me, for he has anointed me to teach. Are you following me? There is supposed to be something that is supposed to be manifested and made tangible when the anointing is upon our lives. They were not following and did not believe in the Torah. Are you?
Yes.
None of you keep the Torah. Why are you trying to kill me? They got angry. They said, ain't nobody trying to kill you. He already knew what they were going to do after that statement. You have to understand, to keep the Torah is more than just saying, I'm not going to do anything on the Sabbath, and that's it. Keeping the Torah means my lifestyle has to change to fit his instructions. His instructions does not change to fit our lifestyle. We have to change to fit the instructions that he's given unto us as his people. And let me tell you something. That's molding clay that has already been molded. And sometimes that can be very challenging to us as a people, especially when you've been accustomed to doing things religiously one way. Y'all following?
Yes.
It's challenging, but it can be done. It's important we understand that. Why? Because it depends. Our life depends upon our changing according to his instructions. That's important, because when we don't understand that, we can hold back and then we will end up losing our lives because of fear. They were not following the Torah, but watch this. They were teaching and they were going, but they were not teaching the people to adhere and hold fast to Torah. I'll say this again. Living Torah is more than just saying I'm a Sabbath keeper. It is about keeping the feast. It is about keeping the Sabbath. Absolutely. I would never underestimate or underrate the keeping of the Sabbath. But it is also us, the Abba, working on us as a people. Some of us are stubborn and don't want people to know it. But when you have eyes, when people are stubborn, when people are rebellious, when people are self-centered, when people don't want to change. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now you got to understand something. We cannot move forward in the Abba when those things are there. We can't even move in fear. If we operate in fear, fear will keep you from moving forward. Fear, it paralyzes you. It does. Because you're afraid to make the next step, because you know the next step you make is going to cause you to relinquish everything you had behind you. And that's where the enemy starts saying, but if you make this step and you let all that go, then what's going to happen if when you make that step, it's nothing there? This is where belief comes in. This is where genuine belief comes in. And you got to understand, they have been following the traditions of men for so long that when truth came into their lives, they couldn't recognize it. He that hath an ear to hear, let him hear what the Ruach is saying unto the what? Congregation. It is important that we listen. Now, he said, did not Moshe give you the Torah? and none of you keep the Torah. Why are you trying to kill me? They answered, you are possessed by a demon who is trying to kill you. Remember now, he had already revealed to them, I'm a prophet. So I already know what you're going to do, because the next couple of conversations is going to really rattle you, and you're going to be ready to throw me over the cliff. You're going to be ready to really do something bad to me. Are you following me?
Yes.
So it is important that you understand, once again, this is, we're talking about not just any, we're talking about the, which many times in Christianity, we negated to even put him in that position because we really didn't know who he really was or who he is. And so now we cannot afford to be like they were and not walk in and believe the Torah. Because the moment we do that, then we're going to find ourselves being just like they were, not believing and not building ourselves in the belief of who he is. Once again, when truth comes into your life, there's going to be a change. It may be challenging, but there's going to be a change. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's important to understand. Because either you're going to change or you won't. Resistance. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's about relationship. Relationship. That is key. All right. Now, if we look in verse 21, Yahushua replied, I have done one work and you all marvel. That lets you know none of these things were being done. They weren't seeing nobody being healed. They weren't seeing anybody being delivered. You start talking about praying for folk, and you start talking about causing people blinded eyes to open and deaf ears to come unstopped, and he loosed tongues of the dumb. People be looking at you like you're stupid. Really, because people have tried to separate this part of his life from the truth. And only believe that he is what they try to present to us is a black man. He's not a black man. He's an Ibram man. He's the son of the Abba, and he came to show us the way and how we are to govern our lives and how we're to live. That's important. But those things are swept under the rug because we get so engulfed in his color that we forget his works that he did in the earth. That's another trap of the enemy. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
He was coming to correct them because they weren't doing what they were supposed to. I say this here. Many times you come across a person's path and many people will say, well, the Abba sent me here, or someone will say the Abba sent me there. But then when you get there and the things are being spoken that kind of go against what you believe, then we start questioning, did the Abba really send me here? Did the Abba really tell me to come here? You know why we question that? Because we are afraid to let go of what we're accustomed to. Y'all feeling it?
Yes.
Y'all hear me?
Yes.
If you say he sent you to the place, then be there to learn and know why he sent you there.
Sure.
That's the only way you're going to know. But many times what ends up happening, we set up our own way and then we get fearful. I can't let go of that. It's crazy, but think about it. People do this even with cooking. People do this with anything they do. Well, my mom and them did it like this for years, but just because a person does it that way doesn't make it right for years. If there is no being able to substantiate the purpose for that. Are you following me? Just using that as an example. Because many times we do something, you ask a person, why did you do that? Oh, well, my mom and them used to do it. Well, do you know why they would do it like that? They just did. Cooking and doing all kinds of things. Are you following me? We don't know that. It's just something becomes a habit. So here it is. They were marveling and they were upset because of the things that he was doing that nobody else understood. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
When you don't understand certain things, it'll cause you to do certain things. They were angry with him because they had not seen this before. Just because something may be said or done you've not seen doesn't mean automatically it's wrong. Now, mind you, we're talking about Yahushua. I ain't talking about nobody else. That's a whole different topic, a whole different subject. But I'm talking about Yahushua. He went to them and he corrected them and they got angry with him. Now I'm going to talk about us. When you tell somebody something and they get mad at you because what you're telling them is truth, you can reference it back to the writings, because now you can understand if you're not speaking your own words. Now, if you're speaking your own words, that's a whole nother ball game. But he told them what they were getting ready to do. And they said, you got a demon. Ain't nobody about to do this. But watch what happens when you hit that nerve. When you hit that nerve, that's when people will change. And he hit that nerve. Now watch what he says in verse 22. Moshe gave you circumcision, not because it is of Moshe, but of the Abba, or the fathers, And on the Sabbath day, you circumcise a man. Now, isn't circumcision considered work? Hello?
Yes.
It's work. Because to circumcise a man means they had to get the tools and they had to perform surgery. Even though it was in and out, still that's surgery. But to them, because they had their own method and their mode or their way of believing, well, that's not really, because we're doing it because it's a great thing. That's not really breaking the Sabbath. But remember, it's work. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's work. Now listen at this. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath day, so that the instruction from Moshe will not be broken, why are you angry at me? Because I have made a man every bit whole on the Sabbath yom. They had selections, what they wanted to uphold and what they didn't want to uphold, because they considered it work. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
But whatever was more, whatever they wanted, that's what they would uphold as being right and what was being wrong. Same as to yom, yo. We can't say, well, this ain't right in one breath, but that's right, and they're in the same category. You can't do that. That's a wrong thing to do. And this is what Yahush was bringing correction to, because we have this to yom. Well, people say, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. But if this is, Moshe said this is supposed to be done on the Sabbath, so that if a person is coming into truth, it's okay. But then they turned around and said, but to bring a man healing, which he had to do nothing but lay hands on, and was wrong, then now he is the enemy. That's the same thing as up to y'all. You have people that will regard one thing over the other and fight you tooth and nail and say, well, that's wrong. You ain't supposed to do that. But you do this. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we don't sway to man's way. Now watch this. Judge not, in verse 24, according to the outward, obvious appearance, but judge righteous judgment. He's telling them, judge right. Don't get in here and start judging crazy and off the wall. Because when you do that, this is what's going to happen. But watch this. Why does this happen? Because they strayed from the truth. When you stray from the truth, you're only going to basically give out what's been put in you. That's all you're going to give out. Once again, I saw something the other day and it bothered me, because stuff on Facebook, it can become very frustrating. And that is the truth. Why? Because we as a people at times are prone to just grabbing what somebody else says or does, and then we post it up, and then it continues to go and go and go, instead of proving it or instead of testing it. During the acid test, let me check this out to see if this is valid. Let me make sure that I ain't promoting a lie. Let me make sure I ain't promoting something that ain't supposed to be promoted. But we'll get it because it seems valid and it seems like it's the right thing to do, and we'll promote it. Instead of asking, am I supposed to even get involved in this? Should I even promote this? Or should I just table it and let it die? Is this my concern? Is this my fight? Is this my battle? No, we will do it because we say, well, if they did it, we might as well get on the bandwagon and support it. It ain't coming and people don't like it, but it is what it is. And that's what they were doing. They were just continuing what was taught them and what was put in their plate. And if we do that, we can harm ourselves and others. When you have a person says that the wickedness of our people, that we were wicked, and because of our wickedness, this is what happens, y'all. That is miseducation. And when you spread that miseducation to other people that are uneducated, guess what? It becomes an epidemic.
Right.
Because now people will begin to say, well, Israel was wicked, and this is why, because There is nowhere in the scripture that will support that anywhere. And trust me, I made sure that the person understood absolutely that corrected them. You're absolutely right, because they needed to be corrected. We can't promote error and think it's okay, because for every person that promotes error, watch this, there's going to be a group that's going to grab it. Now you got to go through, sift through that, and bring correction so that now they're able to receive the truth, not a truth. So that is important for us to understand. And this is what the Mashiach was dealing with. Once again, we can't just say, well, I'm keeping the Torah because that's the way everybody else keeps it. No, we have to dig in the writings and see, okay, what did they do? During the Sabbath, do you not know they did not move at all? During the Sabbath, they didn't move. They stayed in their tents. They didn't move during the Sabbath. And when the Sabbath was up in the beginning, very, very beginning, they didn't go anywhere. And when the Sabbath was up, they came out and continued to do what they were doing. But nowadays, during the Sabbath, you got people driving. You got people at the beaches. I know people ain't gonna like it, but it's the truth. You got people all over the place because they feel like, well, we're just going out for a stroll. But the Sabbath is a time of what? Rest. Anything that exerts energy is considered what? Work. Now people say, well, that's just for the servants. No, understand, it's not just for the servants. Because if we are supposed to be resting, then that's what we're supposed to be doing, not exerting energy, because that's what energy does. Anybody that works, that's what you do. You exert energy. Are y'all following me? That's why you ain't supposed to do nothing. That's why I had to reassess some things, because we do things, and in doing so, remember he told us that we put away our pointing of the finger and doing what? Our pleasure on the what? So what is having pleasure on the Sabbath? Doing what you what? Say it again. Say it, y'all. Doing what you want to do. So that means if I'm still doing what I want to do on the Sabbath, I'm doing what? My pleasure. And I'm breaking the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, it is a day of rest. Somebody said, what you can do? I would suggest you eat, fellowship with your family at the table, you watch a movie or what have you, and after that, go to bed. Are y'all following me? I know people who don't like it. It's 3D. You can get out there and run and jump over hurdles and ride bikes if you want to. But in the end, when he judges that, you're going to be the one that's going to be in trouble. Right. Because you got to remember, on the Sabbath day, a rest means to do that. Just what it means to rest. You know, we don't really know what it means to rest because we've taken from everybody else's definition of what it means to rest. But let's look at what the writing says. Isn't it in Yashiyah 58? Let's look at that real quick. Exactly. 58 and 13. Now, excuse me. He's talking about a fast, but also inclusive in this fast is the reinstitution of the right way to keep the what? Sabbath. Are y'all following me? Yeah. All right. Now, before we get there, we're going to pass the fast. All right. Let's start at 12, which I suggest everybody read the whole chapter. We're going to start at 12. And those from among you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you would be called the repairer of the break, the restorer of streets to dwell in. If you do turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set apart Yom, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set apart Yom of Yahuwah, esteemed, and shall esteem it, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words. And verse 14 should have gone with 13. Then you shall delight yourself in Yahuwah. Are y'all following me? Now, when it is all said and done, the Sabbath by itself is a delight. We don't have to make it a delight. I ain't saying you're supposed to be walking around with your face all humdrum, but it is a time of delight. It is a time of celebration. It is a time of commemoration. Make it a festival, what it is, but don't do no work. Now people have, excuse me, extended it and opened it up. And like I say, they at the beaches, they at the store. We ain't bought them, but we was just browsing. You ain't even supposed to be outside your house. Someone would say, what about somebody wanting to come to service? If they want to come to service, they come to service. And when service is up, you take them home. But I would suggest you find a place that's close enough. Are you following me? To where they can be right there with you. Because you got to understand something. We can't sit here up here and say, well, he'll dismiss that because, you know, he understands. No, he already told us what we need to do and how we need to do it. So we are not to do anything by, you know, that for our pleasure. You know, and everybody think, well, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, and we're going to be all over the place. Y'all, we're supposed to be still during the Sabbath rest. We're supposed to be still. You're supposed to really understand what it means to rest. But because over years and generations of being taught that rest means, well, you know, I'm still resting even though I'm doing this and that. No, real rest means you do absolutely nothing that's going to exert energy. If it exerts energy, you ain't resting. Are you feeling me? Now, some energy when you eat, that's different. But when you up all over the place, well, we just gonna take a stroll. Show me where they were walking anywhere during the Sabbath. Remember, that's our pleasure. That's what we like to do. You got 6 days out of the week to do all this. Right. But the seventh is a time that you do none of those things. Are you following me? Yes. Once again, when he said, Moshe gave you the Torah and you don't even keep it. We've been given the Torah and given instructions, but we got to make sure we're keeping it accordingly. That we ain't mixing in other stuff thinking, oh, it's okay, they doing it, ain't died. Just because they doing it ain't died don't mean we can do it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We have to do according to the instructions that he's given unto us as his people. Are y'all hearing me? All right, now, I want to read this to you also. In Yehukanan chapter 7, verse 21, which is a footnote. Now, the work that Yahush is referring to is the healing of the lame man at the feast of Shavuot. That set the religious leaders in motion to kill Yahush for breaking their takanat. And you can find that in Yehukanan 5 and 18. Somebody get that for me real quick. Yehukanan 5 and 18. This is why they wanted to kill him. Because he began at that point to disturb their way. When you have it, saying it is so.
It is.
All right, read that for me. Mm-hmm.
And it reads, therefore the Yehudim sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Shabbat, but said also that Yahuwah was his making himself equal with Yahuwah.
All right, 5 and 18. Now you understand how he break it. He, according to their standard, by bringing forth healing, he broke the Shabbat. But they could go and circumcise a man, and wasn't nothing wrong with it, and that's considered surgery. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important we understand that. All right, now listen what he says. And commanding the healed man to do the same by deliberately breaking their law of the Aruv. Circumcision predates Moshe and was passed down from Abraham through our spiritual Abbas as a token of the land covenant. Gentiles are not part of the land covenant, but they can become fellow heirs by an act of their free will and submitting to the bloodletting that is required of the inheritor. In other words, when I say bloodletting, means circumcision, when they are circumcised. So it's important that we understand that this is what they were doing, but then when he came and just brought forth healing, which goes back to the Abba for his mercy, they had a major problem with that. You see how twisted their mindset was and how twisted and out of order their agenda was?
Yeah.
Y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yes. They were messed up, really messed up. And this is why when we're doing the Sabbath, constantly, the day before and the day before preparation. It's best to always have everything ready. So nothing has to be done on that yom but class, eat, and rest. Because anything other than that can get us in trouble.
God.
Now, y'all read the same thing I read, exactly, right? I ain't adding and I ain't taking away. I'm showing you exactly what has been in there. Don't do your pleasure. What is your pleasure? Whatever your pleasure is, need to be tabled to after the Sabbath. Your phone.
Yes.
Okay. Very important for us to understand. And the reason, once again, is because you got to understand mandates are important. Listening is important. Because you go out that door on the Sabbath, or we just gonna take a nice stroll, we at the beach, and you die, you're dying in sin. Because you're dying what? Being disobedient. You're driving. Your car gets hit. Now you're dead. You're disobedient. You're in sin. Where you think you're gonna go? It's not gonna happen. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We extended and added stuff that we had no right to do. And we've modified the Torah and his instructions, which we have no right to do. Nobody gave us the authority or the right to modify. We have no right to do that. And it is so.
And it is.
We're not supposed to do that. We're not going to. And any errors we have made in the past, we repented for them and we're correcting them because we don't want to be, in trouble with the Abba. We don't. Because when you start seeing things kind of start acting up a little bit and things kind of going, you have to start questioning, okay, what's going on here? Because in the beginning, everything was flowing, didn't feel like no backups, and didn't feel like the line is not flowing. It means we got to come back and question, have I done something? Because I know it's not on the Abba's part, it has to be on mine. Have I done something wrong? Are you hearing me? It's important for us to understand that. All right, let's finish reading. Let's take up with verse 25. Mhm. Come on, Yehukin in chapter 7, verse 25.
And listen. At that point, some of the people of Jerusalem began to ask, "Isn't this the man they're trying to kill? Here he is speaking publicly, and they are not saying a word to him. Have the authorities really concluded that he is the Mashiach? But we know where this man is from. When the Mashiach comes, no one will know where he is from." Then Yehush, still teaching in the temple courts, cried out, "Yes, you know me, and you know where I am from. I am not here on my own, but he who sent me is true. You do not know him, but I know him because I am from him, and he sent me." At this they tried to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him because this time had not yet come. Still many in the crowd put their belief in him. They said, "When the Mashiach comes, will he do more miraculous signs?" And it is so.
And it is so. Now, doesn't this sound like our people to Yom? That's a lie. That's an imposter. He is not the real one. You are not the Mashiach. We are waiting for another one. And he was right there showing and bringing forth the manifestation and showing evidence that this is who he really was. So that's scary, yo. That's very scary. Why? Because you got to understand, he was right there and they still couldn't see who he really was. Remember, he said, Baruch do they, he told, who was it? Doubting Thomas, he said, Baruch to those who have never seen but believe.
God.
This is truly an act of our belief to believe, though we've never seen it.
God.
We're going off of the testimony and the writings that were left for us to build our belief. So you can't afford to let somebody start. That's just like driving long distance and you don't have a spare tire. That means you got to be extra careful where you driving. Don't drive over there. We don't know what's in that pile of stuff over there. Don't drive over that hump. Because remember, we don't have a what? Spare tire.
Right.
So we don't leave anything up to chance. We leave everything up to being careful and following in the direction and the path that has been already laid out for us. You're following?
Yes.
That's important. Because remember, you got to fight to do what? Guard his commands. Very important for us to understand. All right, now listen what he says. Yet, and then some of them from Jerusalem said, is this not the one that they are trying to kill? Now everybody knew that he had was it on his head? Bounty, a bounty on his head. They knew that this was the man that was stirring up the ways of what? The people, the leaders in that time. They knew this. Yet he is in their face, but they say nothing to him. Do the members of the Sanhedrin think that he truly is the Mashiach? Now watch this. The reason why they weren't saying anything because they didn't want to cause an uproar. And so the people are saying, well, why didn't they say anything? Because they must believe that he truly is who he say he is. You see how we are still in this same kind of dilemma where there's bickering on both sides? Well, if he's not, then why they're not saying anything? Well, if he is, then why aren't they saying anything? And it becomes this big old ball of confusion and feuding to those who don't know who or what side to be on. I know what. Follow me.
Yes.
So it's important. And it says, others said, we know where this man comes from, but when the Mashiach comes, no man will know from where he comes. That's not scriptural. Because didn't it say in the writings where he would come from?
Yes.
Exactly. Once again, when people are miseducated, they will only regurgitate what they've been told. Are y'all following me? Yes. Very important for us to understand. And so here it is in the same thing. Well, he ain't the Mashiach. He ain't the Mashiach. Then they get it so I'm trying to find the word, misconstrued. They say, because he ain't a white man. So thinking, pump the brakes. You trying to drive and going in two directions, front and back. You can't do that. You can't drive forward and be going backwards at the same time because you're gonna tear something up. We know he's not Jesus. We know that. Now, once we remove everything else out of the way, let us now put in place what belongs in place. And then let's start sorting it from there. You know how when they would use flour that is made real flour, they have to sift it because you got to get all the clumps out of it. You got the little old thing, you sift it and you sift it. Now flour you get, they don't have to do that because it's already sifted, you know. But in the old day, when they did their own grain and powdering and making it, they have to take that sifter and they, sift it because they had to get the clumps out. We got to sift through it. Once we sift through it, remove all the impurities and the clumps, then now we're able to go forward. We can't go forward if you're trying to go forward and we got all the rest of the stuff in there. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
That is so important for us as a people. Now, once again, here right out in the temple as he taught, you both know me, and you know from whence I came. Now you have to understand, when there's an exclamation mark, there was now some emotion. Not that he was a person that had no emotion, but now he's really saying, really, y'all know where I've come from. You know me. Well, let me tell you, when the devil gets a hold of people's minds, he blinds them. And then he causes them to be deaf. Because he don't want you to hear or see that you will be able to come into truth and understand it. Now listen, he cries out. He said, you know from whence I came. I did not send myself, but the truth is, you do not know the one who sent me. That's why everybody running around talking about what they call him, Yahuwah or Yahweh, Yahweh. Now understand, I'm not casting out on anybody, but I'm saying when they do these things, they turn around and they say, that's all who I follow. Don't come to me with that renewed covenant, right? New Testament. Don't come to me with that, this, that, and the other. You don't know the Abba. Because if you knew the Abba, then you would respect the gift that he gave to us through his son. So they fight you tooth and nail on that. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why it is important that in our times of keeping the feast, we see what's going on during those times. And we not become one of those that say, oh, that was back in their day. Let me tell you something. History repeats itself. Yes, it does. And if you don't get the stuff out of the way for it not to be fertile in your life, some stuff will constantly keep repeating itself. You got to change the ground. You got to get all seeds, all roots out the way. I didn't realize that even a root, if you let it stay in the ground after you done dug and it's a fresh root from a tree or whatever, you don't get that thing out of the way, it will begin to sprout. Because the ground is fertile for it. So you got to get that stuff out of the way so it doesn't keep trying to grow up and establish a footing in your life. When we got out of Christianity, I got out of it. There are some songs I love listening to when I was in Christianity. But now I'm like, I can't do it. There are songs, Kim Burrell, she got a nasty attitude, but Kim Burrell can sing. If she sung ABCs, she could sing. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
The one, I come to you more than I give. That song right there is it. But every time I hear that word Lord, and I hear God, and I hear Jesus, I'm not trying to let that stuff become what's that worm that gets in you, a hookworm, and if it ain't a hookworm, what's that other one? A tapeworm. I'm not trying to tapeworm. I'm not trying to allow that stuff to get established or reestablished in my life. There is no fertile ground there, but I'm not about to play with it either. Are y'all following me?
No.
We have to be careful, because if we don't, we open the door for these things to come in and devastate us. Let me tell you something. You listen to it long enough, you keep hearing it over and over and over in your head. Earworm, yeah, you keep hearing it. And next thing you know, you saying something, and then next thing you know, oh God, and you start thinking, whoa, 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 warning signs. I haven't said that in years. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because you were just listening to that over and over and over and over and over again. And now all of a sudden it comes out of your mouth. And you weren't even thinking about it, because now it becomes a part of your what? Subconscious. So no, I'll listen to something else and motivate me than that. May not be what you want to hear, but it'll motivate me. But sure won't be that. Are you following me?
Yeah.
I don't need that in my ruach. No, because I'm familiar with it. I had relationship with that life before. Are you hearing me? That's like somebody talking about being friends with an old boyfriend, an old girlfriend. You have relationship with them. You have history. So you got to be careful with that. Are y'all following me? So you have to be. So I'm like, no, I can't do that, because then you start, making references and like, oh Lord. Y'all know I'm telling the truth, because then you start saying these things when you wean that out of your vocabulary and you say, oh, stupid, this craziness. You use other words other than those titles. And then you start listening to that music, and next thing you know, you're using them to express yourself. That means it's getting a foothold in there. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
It's trying to find its way back into your life. Y'all, we have to be careful. It's just the truth. Are y'all following me? Very important that we understand this. All right. He said, you know me. And he says, I did not send myself, but the truth is you do not know the one who sent me. I know him, for I came from him, and he has sent me. And they didn't know the Abba. And it's many that don't know him too young. Why? Because they never got to know him, just like our ancestors and forefathers didn't. They just took it and ran and just said, we got this part, but we're going to do what we want to do. And it cost them. It cost them dearly. You can have a form, remember what it tells in the writing, having a form of a rightness, but denying the power thereof. Remember he said they speak of me with their lips, but their what? Hearts are far from me. Y'all, you gotta understand, there's a lot of people that know how to fake this thing to where people believe, man, they got this thing down pat. We can't be fakers.
God.
You don't fake this till you make it. You get in and you do what has to be done and receive what you need to receive so you can proceed in a healthy relationship with him. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let's begin at verse 30, please. We're reading to verse 36.
Then they tried to seize him, yet no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. However, many from the crowd believed in him and said, when the Mashiach comes, he won't perform more signs than this man has done, will he? The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him. So the chief priests and Pharisees sent temple police to arrest him. Then Yahushua said, I'm only with you for a short time. Then I'm going to the one who sent me. You will look for me, but you will not find me. And where I am, you cannot come. Then Yehudim said to one another, where does he intend to go so we won't find him? He does not intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks, does he? What is the remark he made? You will look for me, and you will not find me, and where am I, you cannot come. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Now, it's very important that we understand his line of communication with them. And it was not for them to be ignorant and without, but they were. Now, let's look at verse 28. Yahushua is making a direct reference to the ceremony that took place during the Feast of Sukkot. The listeners that this is called water libation. The priest would parade down to the pool of Shalom. Now, this is Jewish, or sent one, and bring up water unto the Temple Mount for the evening ceremony. At the end of the week, Yahushua would proclaim to be the fulfillment of this Kadesh rehearsal put in prophet King Dawood. Yahushua will prophesy that he will be the source of the outpouring of the Ruach of which Joel prophesies. Yahushua also interprets the prophetic significance of the fall feast of Yahuwah and cryptically state that the latter rain outpouring will transpire on the last great Yom. He is the sent one. His obedient followers with the living water after he goes to where they cannot follow. Now, this is a footnote that goes to Yehukin in 7:28 and 1. Now, once again, it's important that we understand. I like to read the footnotes to bring us up, to show us the different scenarios of those things. And I want to read you this footnote as well. And this also comes from verse 28. Then cried Yahushua, and this is from the Abrahamic covenant writings. Then cried Yahushua in the Beit Hakmadesh temple as he taught, saying, you both know me, and you know where I am. And I have not come of myself, but he that sent me is true, whom you know not. Once again, that was 28. Chapter 7 and verse 28. Now, when we look at this from here, get to it. Listen to this. They were religious, wearing the right clothes, but not Torah observant. The same is true of the clergy and the churches. They are religious, copying many of the items of the belief of Judaism, but little do they know the Torah, and they certainly do not know the Abba in Shemayim or his son. They only know of the son and his belief of Judaism, of the belief of Judaism, but they have no real knowledge of it or how to practice it. It's times for these religious people to go back to the elder brother, Yehuda, to learn what real biblical Judaism is all about and how to keep it. Now, I read both of those because y'all know we don't follow Judaism. Okay? So when you have the different, and this is Judaism, when you look in 7 and 28, when they talked about the water. If you notice, I think it's during the time of Passover. I believe it is. Where they would go to the water and they would wade in the water, they would grab the water and they would do their ritual with the water, the Jews, because they said this was a part of the ceremony that they would have to perform during this feast. So you got a lot of stuff out there that claims to be solid and 100% truth, but even in that, you still have to sift it. You hear what I'm saying? Sift it, because there are some things that people promote that is still on the edge or on the understanding of Judaism. And Judaism was birthed from what? The rabbis and sages. Okay? So what I'm saying is just we have to be careful of the information that we get and its sources, and be careful in when we're reading stuff. Yeah, that's great, but then also be careful of the stuff that's put in there that we don't accept. You follow what I'm saying? Yes. Okay. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just get the bathwater out of there. And it is so. And it is so. All right. Now, we know they sought to kill him. It says they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because his time had not come. But many of the people believed on him and said, when Mashiach comes, will he do more miracles than these, which this man has done? Now you have to understand, when they talk, they, you always want to say that it's inherited, when we speak a little loud. But you have to understand, when you have a crowd of people speaking, they were not whispering. They were talking very loud to where the pusher were able to hear that they were believing in the Mashiach. And they began to get disturbed by it because they were like, whoa, wait a minute now. His actions are beginning to weaken our grip on them using what we have. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So they got nervous about that because they were like, wait. People are taking notice of what he's doing. People are really watching his life. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. So he said, you will seek me and shall not find me. Where I go, you cannot come. Then the religious, leaders spoke among themselves, where will he go that we will not find him? Now, mind you, the reason why they're able to say this because every place they had a foothold in it. And they were still thinking carnally. Now, listen to what he says. Will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles? Now, do you not see where they knew that there were the dispersed? Y'all follow that?
Yes.
He said, will he go to the dispersed? Now listen at this. Among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? What kind of talk is this? You shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, there you cannot come. Now, mind you, they're getting angry with him. Now, mind you, once again, the enemy, whenever you read in the writings and it says, how your enemy, it is not talking about other nations. It is talking about Yehuda and Yasharal ahabing each other. Because we're the ones that have the conflict going on among ourselves. Wonder why we always at odds with one another? Because that's where the true conflict is. With us as a people. The house of Yasharal and the house of Yehuda. But that is supposed to be dissolved. Watch this, in Yahush. Because in him, we're supposed to be made that perfect man. In Yahush, we're supposed to be made one. That's why the enemy fights so hard for us not to believe in him and not to run to him, because in him, we are to be made complete and made whole in him. Y'all follow me? Yes. It's important we understand that. All right. Now, this is another passage we're going to look at in Yehukin chapter 8, and this deals with the trial of the adulterous woman. And we're going to look at chapter 8 of Yehukin, and we're going to start at verse 1 all the way to verse 11. All right. You can read 6, and then we'll read
Verse 1.
Mhm.
Yehukin chapter 8, verse 1 reads, Yehush went out into the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they saw him, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moshe in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. What sayest thou? This they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. But Yehu stooped down and with his as though he heard them not. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Now, let me show you this here, which is so enlightening. Now, we look at it and it says, and Yehush went to the Mount of Olives. And at dawn, he came again into the set apart place, and all the people were coming to him, and having sat down, he was teaching them. It says in this one, according to the Abrahamic covenant, and early in the morning, he came again into the Beit HaMikdash temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Now, in here, because it's giving what was going on, Yehush went out to his sukkah, on the Mount of Olives, because this was during the feast of Sukkot. Now, once again, we're trying to establish, we are establishing where he was and what was taking place during this time, because sometimes we don't get the full picture. We only get bits and pieces. Now, what it says on the Mount of Olives, early in the morning, he returned to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Now, once again, it shows that he left and went where? To his Sukkot. We always think he just went to the Mount of Olives, and that was it. But this was during the Feast of Tabernacles. Are y'all following? Yes. Okay. Now, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The sages and Prushim brought to him a woman taken in adultery. When they had set her in their midst, they asked him or said to him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act itself. So, once again, here they are during the Feast of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. They just can't let it go. Are you following?
Yes.
All right. Let me see. I read to verse 4. Let's read 5. Read the you can read the last 5. Mm-hmm. I stopped at verse 4. You go pick up at 5 because you'll read all the way to 11.
Okay. Verse 6.
Verse 5.
And in the Torah, Moshe commanded us that such should be stoned. What then do you say? And this they said, trying him, so that they might accuse him. But Yehush, bending down, wrote on the ground with the finger, as though he did not hear. But as they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. And bending down again, he wrote on the ground. And when they heard it, being reproved by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning from the older ones until the last. And Yehush was left alone, and the woman standing in the middle. And Yehush straightened up, and seeing no one but the woman, said to her, Woman, where are those accusers of yours? But no one condemned you. Did no one condemn you? And she said, No one, Master. And Yehush said to her, Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. And it is so.
And it is so. Now I got 2. I want to read to you from 2 descriptions. Now, we don't, well, I won't say don't follow Greek, but many times you'll find that people get their sources from Greek manuscripts because people really believe that the renewed covenant was not written in Hebrew, but it was written in Hebrew because they spoke in Hebrew or Hebrew. And so this passage here says, this passage of adultery does not exist in many earlier readings of the Greek manuscripts and is omitted. It was probably taken from an early, watch this, Besorah of the Ibrams, which is now lost, which was held dearly by the early Nazarenes. Keefa also set forth another story about a woman who was accused of many sins before Yahuwah, which is the Besorah according to the Ibrams contains. So you got to remember many things. This is why, and not to go into another theory or anything of that nature, but this is why sometimes when you read in certain things, it seems like, okay, why do we have a lack of things concerning women of belief? Because depending on where they got their sources from, if restoration is not made across the board, then there's going to seem like it's a major gap. There's still, my quest is to find evidence of what happened to Hawa, because it does not speak of her. It talks of her giving birth and her having her sons, and then after that, it speaks more about what Hadan did. And it says he died, but it never says that Hawa died. And I believe they took those manuscripts, and what happened to her, they took it so we would never know. Because remember, here this is a melanated woman. Your phone. But I'm going to table that right there. But there is nothing that can be substantiated to what happened to her. Nothing. It's like she was there and then she was no more. And then we can assume and come to many assumptions. But my quest is to find information about what happened to her, if there is information, and not fabricated information about her life. But there were, once again, in many of the passages in the Greek manuscripts, this is omitted. So if it's omitted, you would never hear about his interaction or what he has done for women. You follow me?
Yes.
All right. Now, excuse me, let's look at this from here. And then we're going to we're going to stop with this one. All right. Now let's listen. But Yahushua stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground when they continued asking him. Now they kept on. Now they just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing. They kept on. So he said, okay. He stood up and said to them, he that is without sin among you, let him be the first to cast a stone at her. He stooped down again and wrote on the ground. Those who heard his words, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the eldest, ending at the last. Yahushua was left alone with the woman standing in the midst. When Yahushua stood up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, woman, where are your accusers? Has no man condemned you? She said, no man, master. And Yahushua said to her, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. He told her, go sin no more. Now, let's look at the footnote for this. 8 and 4. This is an illegal setup. The Torah stipulates that both parties are culpable in an adulterous situation, not just the woman, where you could 20 and 10. Yahushua's words is without this sin, cast the first stone. All them that were standing around. It is very likely that the woman was found with one of them in the usual place they reserve for such activities. And that is why the man was not brought into the picture. Yahushua could have been writing the names of the offending parties among them or other incriminating information in the dirt, causing her accusers to quickly vanish. See, because he never said anything. He was writing in the ground. I believe he was writing the writings, and while he was writing them, he was putting their names there, and he was showing, remember, he's a prophet. And they like, oh, I can't touch this, and we're backing out, and so she was left there. But it's important that we understand throughout the course of his life, the things that he was involved in. We get just sometimes we just scratch the surface of that. And even in scratching the surface, sometimes we're denied that because we don't really go deep into it until executed. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we see what was going on. He stood up because it was wrong. And according to where equal, both of them should have been brought there. But like I say, it was illegal. But they wanted to see where he stood. Would he be with them or would he be against them? just like to y'all. You got men that will fight a woman teaching truth. And they'll fight because they feel like, well, she ain't under the, authority of her husband. I thought we were supposed to be under the authority of the Torah. Are you following me?
Yes.
We are equal. So if we're equal, then how is it? I know a lot of people are going to get angry when I say equal. We're not equal in strength, but we're equal because he has a soul and so do I. Are you following me?
Yes.
What makes us different is that he is male and I am female, but we are both created in what? In the image of who? The Abba. So my image is in that respect, we are different, but we are very much alike because we both have a ruach and both of us have to be redeemed. I have to be redeemed just like he has to be redeemed. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You have to understand when stuff was inserted in there to bring division, inserted in there to always keep confusion in the midst. Y'all follow me?
Yeah.
I know it goes against the doctrine, of what we've been taught. The woman is supposed to walk behind the man. And even though it said, well, the woman came from his side and she's supposed to be beside him, but watch this, even beside him, she still is only supposed to bear his children. And she's supposed to, sit and be quiet. And that's it. And she's supposed to be, taught by him to understand. I'm not knocking people that do that, but I am saying, let's go back and let's re-examine this again. Because what makes us different is our gender. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It is our gender that makes us different. If I don't repent, I can't be saved. If he doesn't repent, he can't be saved. It's mutual respect. I gotta respect him just like he has to respect me. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But the script somehow has been tainted. Because a lot of brothers believe unless a woman is sitting and being silent and quiet, then she's not humble. That's not who he made all of us to be. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And everybody has their several abilities or gifts. Every man, just because he's a man, does not mean he's a teacher. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And that though you're less of a man, it just means that's not what the Abba has called him to do. But because of the influence of other cultures and other people, our people believe that this is what it's supposed to be. And the woman, in her being submissive, is supposed to be quiet, and she's supposed to hold her head down and walk behind the man, suppress everything that the Abba has given to her, and this is what she's supposed to be. Show me in the writings, the original writings, that this is valid. It's not. And then when a woman goes off and she goes buck wild and foot fancy and loose, then the first thing they say, oh, she's just a whore. She's just this, she's just that. When in actuality, let's look at the root cause of this thing. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You got to understand, once again, it works both ways. You have men that are submissive and humble, and women. It takes both being humble and submissive because we both have to humble ourselves before the Abba. That's important. And I know a lot of people don't like it, but it is the truth. This has nothing to do with feminism, because I totally oppose feminism. But I also oppose machoism, if that's even a word. I don't like that because it makes as though we were created for nothing other than to be to lay in the bed and bring forth children. And I ahab my children, and trust me, I ahab what I do, but you're not going to tell me that's all we were created for. We're not. He created us to be vibrant and alive. What happens, I truly believe, is that you got people that get with people and there is no compatibility. Listen to what I'm about to say. And when there is no compatibility, this is what's happening. Your phone?
Yes.
Fire. But when people are not compatible, that's what happens. And when people are not compatible, guess what people start trying to do? They start doing things. And sometimes, what is that when you do it covertly, when you do it underhandedly? Subversely. And when people do it in a covert way. You got to understand something. Whom the Son sets free is what?
Free indeed.
We're all free indeed when we submit ourselves to the Abba. It's about freedom. It is about being liberated. It's not about me being liberated from one area and being brought into bondage in another area. Something wrong with that picture. But there's an issue with compatibility. And when there's an issue with compatibility, you're going to have problems. But humility is a two-way street. I have to give respect as well as give respect. Respect is demanded on both, not just because it's a man or it just the man gets respect. The woman deserves respect as well. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
Yes. That's important. And it's important we understand that. Because you will always want to hear, once again, the men say, where is, thank you, Yahuwah, in Yehukin in chapter 5, and we began to look at verse 20, in that chapter, I think it's chapter 5 of Yehukin, and when Yehush is speaking to the woman at the well, and he asked her, where was her husband? And she said, I have none. And he said, you speak well because the man you're with ain't your husband. Now, you have to understand, back in that time, if some of the brothers would have been in that time, they wouldn't have even let her go to the well by herself. They'd have been right there. They'd have been right there. He did, because if he said anything, he would have to have said it through him. But look at what he did. He ministered to her and he had conversation with her while his disciplined followers were not even there. What I am saying here is I'm not trying to want to who we are and our responsibility as people, as humans. It's important we understand that. Because our culture has been raped. And then we've had a Mickey slipped in there to where some stuff has been altered. We can't be a powerhouse if one is not willing to be that too. That doesn't work. The way a load is lifted and it's balanced, both have to take full responsibility. If we don't both take responsibility, that means that weight is going to be uneven and one person is going to have to carry the weight more than the other.
That's right.
But because of the way we've been taught, well, women ain't supposed to do this, and, women ain't supposed to teach, women ain't supposed to do this, women are supposed to be quiet, and women are supposed to humble themselves. I believe in all that women are supposed to humble, but I don't believe that women are supposed to be quiet. I don't believe that. I don't. And I believe that we are to serve each other. Now that'll go against the grain with many people, because people think, well, the woman is only supposed to serve the man. We're supposed to serve each other. That's a balance. We are to serve each other. Because many are trying to make women be in this position and break them into a subservient position. And that is not the way it's supposed to be done. Abba Yahuwah won't even break. He only broke one person's will, and that was Rabbi show me somebody else. That is the exception and not the rule. We try to make everything a rule. And you got women out there that are strong-spirited. Are you hearing me? And when you have men out there that are strong-spirited, you got men out there that are not as strong-spirited, but does that mean they're not men? Absolutely not. It means they are the man that the Abba created them to be. And when you try to force people in situations and in positions they're not meant to be, it causes a catastrophe. So in order to understand recovery, restoration, and revival, we got to begin to recover our identity. And our identity is more than me just saying I'm Hebrew. It means me also knowing the place that he has positioned me in. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That is important. Yes, there is more to this. Because once again, you're not going to make me believe that he created us to be who we are. None of us is second best. Are y'all following?
Yes.
None of us. And so it's important that you understand who you are and what you are and what he's giving you to do. He didn't bring us in the truth to cause us to be burdened down and to feel outside. I'm a part of this, but I still don't fit in. That's the devil. And that's people that are unlearned and ignorant about who truly the Abba is and who Yahushua is. Once again, let's look at the verse. He said, where are your accusers? If it was all that, then he would have dismissed her and wouldn't have forgiven her her sins. But if you notice, she knew she was wrong. She never left. She stayed. They left. So once again, we got to research the scriptures to see and to know his view and not anybody else's view. And I believe that he will reveal us and continue to reveal to us secret things, hidden things, but we got to be in a place to receive it. Are you hearing me?
Good.
Once again, it's important that we understand these things and look at it from the perspective it's supposed to be, and that is from his writings. Well, I'm going to stop it here, and Yahuwah willing, we'll pick it up tomorrow, and we will finish bring the conclusion to the matter of him being celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, him being a part of it and celebrating it, and not just one that was an onlooker, but he celebrated it and he was a part of it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And being able to put him in place so that we, as we continue to reverence him because of his lifestyle, we continue to give the Abba praise because we do have one that lived this life and he lived it and showed us how to live it with perfection, mature, and able to do what is needed to do. Once again, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong when you keep him first. I am Aliyah Yasharal, and I am the Mora of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief congregation located in South Carolina. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief congregation, this is the place where
The Torah does the body excellent.
until next time, Yahweh Yahuwah Baruch Atah, and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.